Well, welcome to the Stone Roadie podcast. It's the one you don't want to miss. It stars Craig Reed, the Stone Roadie, and Griff, the rocket scientist. Let's not forget Kathy Godsey and all the old friends that come along. Lord, we'll be talking Skynyrd and leaving you with a song.
Podcast 87 action. All righty then, looky here. This is podcast 87 of the Stone Roadie Show, and my name's Craig Reed, the host, and this is my co-host, the sexy rocket scientist, Griff Martin. And we'll just let you take this away. It's kind of confusing for me. We got a lot of people on here today, so just roll with it, Griff.
Okay, well, that sexy thing, I don't think anybody's ever seen me naked. So if you ever saw me naked, that you might have to poke your mind's eye out on that one.
I had some lady on Facebook. That was a special request last week. That when I introduced you, that was a kind of a sneaky one. I didn't tell you about that one.
Yeah.
She said when you introduce Griff, you got to introduce him as the sexy rocket scientist, Griff.
Oh my God! No mail, please. No mail. Yeah. So we got a really good podcast. It's a jam-packed podcast, Craig. I mean, it's just almost too much stuff to mention. We got some great guests, of course. We've got the returning Chad Lane, ZACK Lane, and this is the first time for Nick Gentry, and of course these guys are in Six Gun. That's ZACK Lane's band, and now we get to see Chad Lane here. This is a guy who's made it all happen for Zach's band here. He's supported him ever since Zach was in diapers running around with a little ukulele, So this is a great treat. And then we have SATA Davidson here. And SATA, she's a singer. And these guys are all going to be at the Rockin' for a Reason, the 29th in Jacksonville. And we're trying to get these people all introduced up for people to see because these are the folks that are going to be performing. And so everybody that you see here is going to be at the Rock for a Reason event, and ticket sales are really going well. So you guys, if you're contemplating on going and you haven't gotten your tickets yet, you need to go ahead and do that. You can go to supportsurvivors.net. That's the webpage, and go to Rockin' for a Reason. And then there's a little poster on there, and you can click on the link, and that'll get you to the tickets. So why don't we get started and talk about these guys and some of the stuff that we're going to be hearing and things like that. But first, let the ladies go first. So we're going to start with SATA, right? So, yes. I'll be honest with you. I don't know a whole lot about the lineup for the show on the 29th. And these guys probably know more about it than I do. But SATA, she's a pretty young gal. What SATA? You're still like in high school, right? You're like a senior or something?
I'm a senior, yes.
Yeah. And so how was it that you got involved with Rockin' for a Reason? Can you tell us?
Chad Lane reached out to me. I'm not really sure how he heard about me, but he reached out. And
yeah, well, that's Craig's son. You know that, right?
It's Chad Reed.
Chad
Reed.
Yeah. That's Chad Lane.
I'm Chad Lane.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear the last name. What did she say, Lane?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chad's Craig's son. You know him then, right?
Yeah.
You know him? Yeah. It's not like a true or false question. But anyway, so you got basically invited to the Rockin' for a Reason, right? Well, what kind of music do you perform? What's your style?
I sing a little bit of everything. I like to sing R&B blues recently, but I just joined this band and we've been playing more rock music.
Mm-hmm.
I've always listened to rock music too growing up, so I know a lot.
So what's the name of your band?
We don't have an official name yet.
No.
No.
Are you going to be performing with your band, or aren't you like sitting in with another band or something? What's going on with what you're doing at the event?
I'm sitting in.
Yeah, and who are you sitting in with?
Not exactly sure.
Us.
But I'm
Sitting in with us.
I'm prepared for it.
Yeah. Well, what can we expect to hear? Are you gonna? How many songs are you gonna do?
I'm singing one song, Getaway.
Getaway. Okay. So y'all practiced up for that and ready to go?
I've practiced what I need to practice.
Yeah. How old were you when you started singing?
In public, I was around 6 years old.
Oh yeah.
Restaurant stuff.
So you sound like you even started before that, huh? So like maybe 4 or
I've been
5
singing
or
for as long as I can remember.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so the people that you're singing with, did you go practice with them, or are they gonna just tell you jump up on stage and sing? Or
Jump up on stage and sing.
yeah, so you haven't even practiced with them yet, huh?
Practice with anybody yet.
Oh, well, I think the day before everybody's going to get together, aren't they, guys? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Friday we're rehearsing. I think everybody's got like an hour to 2 hour time slot to, get their stuff together, and then we'll transition each group, I guess. So yeah.
Well, Zach, it seems like you're pretty informed on what's going on, because Craig and I, we're so busy with this podcast, we can hardly even keep track of ourselves. Do you know what the lineup is? If we had Chad Reed here, he'd tell us, pretty good, but I know you guys probably got an idea.
Yeah, I know everybody that's supposed to be playing there as of right now. I don't know the order, but it's us. We're doing me, Nick, and then Dad is supposed to be doing Cry for the Bad Man. Was I right or wrong? What's the other Skynyrd song?
What's Your Name?
What's Your Name? Yeah. And then Dad, that's it for Dad. He's doing the Skynyrd songs. He'll be doing some stuff with Mike Owings too.
So those songs, is that going to be performed as your band, Six Gun?
Well, it'll be us three, and then Derek Hess and GT, the bass player that played at Roadies.
Right. And if anybody doesn't know Derek Hess, then he was the drummer for Rossington Collins.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool, right, Zach?
Yeah, it's great. I'm very excited to meet him and play with him.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things you can put in your resume. I jammed with Derek Hess.
Yeah, for sure.
And then SATA, you can put all this in your resume. So keep going, Zach. What else you know about?
Well, so there's that, and Brandon Miller is supposed to be joining us for. He's supposed to be singing "Don't Misunderstand Me" with Sweet Melissa, and so me and Nick. I'm not sure who the other guitar player is going to be on Getaway, and then SATA, Derek Hess, GT. GT, I believe, is the bass player for most of the night. And Derek is the drummer for most of the night, but yeah.
And for those of you out there in podcast land, we're the concert's not going to be this unorganized. They're going to have an itinerary and everything. So, Craig and I, we're just kind of helping support getting the show up and running and meeting the guests and things like that. So we don't really know a whole lot about the lineup and things. But Chad, man, he's doing a great job setting all that up. We want to thank Chad Reed. I've had so many phone calls from him, the guy's just getting bombarded because it's not an easy thing to do, to put this thing together. And you got people coming from everywhere, all out of, there's people coming down from even Canada that I've heard that are coming. So, and of course, the plane crash survivors. They're all going to try to make it there. Some of them have some health issues, so that's going to be a logistical issue for them, but they're going to be there. And so we're going to have a really, really great show. Of course, there's going to be an auction where you guys can bid on some really cool stuff. There's going to be almost like a museum of artifacts there. There's going to be a really cool guitar auctioned off as well. But
I talked to Chad. I talked to Chad just before I got on here, and he said he finalized the beer thing. He got that run. Gene is a member of American Legion, so they were able to run that through the American Legion.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So now a lot of the beer sales now are going to be able to be funded toward the Forgotten Survivors Fund. So that'll add to the benefit, the thing. So that'll be cool. That just happened just a little bit ago.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anytime you do a concert like this, and I know because I just did one a couple years ago, things change. It's a real time situation. There's hurdles and obstacles and things like that. And so they were trying to dial in the beer, and I guess they've figured out a way where the beer sales can help the donations better, right, Craig? So,
yeah, well, it has something to do with this because this is a nonprofit. That everybody that was involved, all the beer people that were involved, they needed a nonprofit tax ID number, and they couldn't use a corporate number or nothing. And so Gene being a member of American Legions, they were able to run it through Gene. So that was a kind of a lifesaver,
Right. So, so SATA, you're looking forward to this, huh?
I am. I'm excited.
And we're looking forward to hearing you. Is there anywhere anybody can go to listen to any of your stuff, like a YouTube channel? Is there anything you can plug for people that they can get to know you a little bit better? Like social media? I'm sorry.
Releasing music on the 23rd. I have a song coming out.
Okay.
On all streaming platforms.
Oh, okay. So you have some new music you just recorded and you're releasing, huh?
Yes.
Is it just one song?
It's just one song, and it's a cover of "Is It Over Yet" by Winona Jett.
Oh, cool.
What school do you go to? Do you go to one of the schools at the beaches?
I do. I go to Fletcher High School.
Oh, that's where Tanner went. My grandson went to Tanner or Fletcher, yeah, for a little bit. Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's going to be a baseball star, so that's cool. Puts out some athletes. And
he
back
just
over
picked
here,
up he just picked up a sponsorship the other day. Tanner did. Yeah.
Excuse me. So back to the 6-gun over here. Now, I'm going to take advantage of having Chad Lane. He's not a big talker on the podcast. He that's why he wears his sunglasses. He's just hiding behind him over there a little bit. But we're going to bring him out here a little bit because, everybody is just astounded by 6-gun and Nick and Zach. You guys are like really good together, and we haven't really heard much about Nick too much, but I know Chad has really helped the band out a lot. Nick, how long have you been in 6-gun?
I've been with them since September
2021.
21? Yeah, 21.
Yeah. And were you like a friend of Zach's that you guys just knew each other in school?
Really. I knew of him. I'd seen him on Facebook, before playing. And then one day, went to an open mic actually, and then seen Chad there, and we got together and we're talking. And then he invited me to come down to rehearsal Wednesday.
Oh, okay. So Chad found you.
Yeah.
Are you and Zach about the same age?
I'm 24, so I'm a little bit older than Zach.
Yeah. So what about your history with playing guitar? When did you start playing guitar?
I started probably playing every day, probably around my junior year. I played when I was younger, but I ended up quitting. But
Yeah.
so I've been playing about 10 years now.
So how's it been playing in six gun? You enjoying yourself?
Oh yeah, it's the best thing ever.
Are you learning anything from ZACK, or is he learning stuff from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think every day we learn a little bit more from each other.
Right. Chad, what do you think about these guys, man? You've watched ZACK go from barely being able to pluck a string all the way to, becoming this TikTok phenomenon,
Oh yeah, I remember when he was first getting started. It was pretty painful to watch, but he hung in there, and his mom and I both told him as long as he was working on it that we would stay behind him with it. And he has really put in a lot of time, a lot of hard work, painful fingertips, and so he has come a long way, and Nick is just top notch guy. He really is. He's a really good asset for six gun. They really push each other back and forth.
I know the last time when we came up and it was Kingsport, Tennessee, and we didn't get to talk to your bass player. Is he the same guy every time that when you guys are gigging? You guys have the same bass player?
He was a substitute for that night. Our regular bass player couldn't make it to that one, so he was a sub. But the drummer that was there, he's our guy. He's one of the most.
He's a
solid.
Good drummer.
Yeah, he's solid.
He's a real good drummer. Yeah, real good drummer.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, that was a great.
He had a new drum kit that night there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
we signed it.
Yes, I was going to mention that, and the whole band is very proud. Since then, the times that that drum kit has been out, some, especially the venue owners, and it's always pointed out to them, and if they don't know, who the signatures are on it, we make sure we tell them who they are.
Are you guys bringing your own equipment down, or are you guys using stuff that's already going to be there?
Yeah, we'll be using our own. Brandon Miller is supposed to be bringing me a cabinet, and I'm going to talk to him about bringing Nick a cabinet as well. A speaker cabinet. So, but as far as amps, guitars, and stuff, they'll be ours.
So the stuff that you're doing with Brandon, you mentioned the stuff that you're going to be playing with Brandon too.
Yep.
And how many songs is he going to be playing?
As far as just the Rossington Collins jam, is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Let's see. I want to say probably 3 or 4, something like that. It could be more, but that's just what sounds right to me at the top of my head, But yeah, he'll be doing that. But like I said, Mike Owings is supposed to be playing. I don't know. That's the only other guitar player that I know of that's going to be playing there.
Project 151 was on last week's Guitar Roadie show, and this will be their only show. They're putting a band together for this Rockin' for a Reason thing, and yeah, they're kind of rehearsing and putting something together just for this Rockin' for a Reason thing. Yeah,
that's Deborah Johnson, I believe.
Yeah,
she I don't know much about her. I know that she sings, of course, but I've never listened, heard any of her music or anything.
Well, SATA. So what's really cool about this, and I don't know, Zach, what you guys remember what podcast it was? I should remember when we were in Kingsport. Craig, you remember what podcast that was?
No.
I was gonna. Have you seen ZACK on TikTok, SATA?
I got one video sent to me and I looked a little bit. Yeah.
Nick, do you have any TikTok videos out there, buddy?
I don't have a TikTok, but I'm on Instagram. I post on there occasionally, but I don't have a a regiment like Zach does every week.
Yeah. So if you get a chance, go check his stuff out, because he's the guy's a note for note guy, and he really does well. And and Chad was talking about his fingers. Didn't you used to have to like put super glue on into the guy's fingers to keep it so he could play, right? So
oh yeah. They were so Zach was getting ready to go to Nashville to record do some tracking for Slickson with Brandon Miller, and he was working on Steve Gaines's part for Freebird, which Zach he had for years been playing Alan's part mainly, and on the solo section of Freebird. Excuse me. And so he got started on, when Brandon told him that he'd like for him to play Steve's part, he got started on working that right away. And I think you had a week or less to do it, to really dial it in. And that is probably some of the worst fingertips that I have ever seen.
Oh yeah.
They were literally, like raw. Raw. And after about 2 days of that, we started putting super glue on his fingertips just so he could continue learning the song and be ready note for note. Brandon specifically said that he wanted it note for note, which Zachary's going to do it note for note anyway. So, but to do that and to get it right, he got pretty raw fingertips. So about every 20 minutes, I was refreshing the super glue on his fingertips.
Yeah. How they looking now, Zach? They healed up, man?
Yeah, they're better now.
Yeah, that's good. Especially if you're messing around with an acoustic guitar, that'll really turn them into hamburger.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Ed King used to use tough skin on his fingertips.
Yeah.
It's about the same thing as super glue, yeah.
Wow, see, now there is a podcast first right there, Ed King. See this kind of stuff that comes out that we don't know about, that stuff, I've used that stuff before, Craig. That's some good stuff. There you go, Zach. Get you a bottle of that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I had no idea Ed had ever done that. That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, you guys got anything that you want to talk about? Is there anything that you want to say, plug for any kind of social media or anything that you want to share with anybody?
No, I would just like to add, I was going to initially, when this thing first started, of course, Zach was going to be there with Slicks and Revolver, so I was going to be there to help him out. But Chad asked me to do a couple of songs, since I had to be there anyway, and it was just truly an honor to be asked to do something for this, to raise some funds for the remaining survivors. I keep up with a lot of them, and it's an honor to do it, and we're really looking forward to hearing some of the bands that we've never heard live, like Street Preacher and the project with 151, and getting to meet and SATA. We're looking forward to meeting all the guys.
And for those of you that don't know, Chad is in Six Gun. He's the singer, and
I'll tell you how that got started. Just a little brief, since I've never been on here. I'll tell you a little quick brief thing. So Zachary was started the band Six Gun, and he had ran off one day and forgot a guitar strap. So he called, and I took the strap to him. We got down there, and the guy that was singing at the time was having and this was in January 2020, and that's COVID time when it started, and he was really sick. So they were struggling to get through Sweet Home Alabama. So I walked in, gave Zachary, his strap, and he said, and they were struggling. He said, well, Dad knows that song. He said, let Dad sing it. So I did, and before I got to the end of it, they all looked at me, and especially the guy that was singing and playing bass. He said, well, we found the singer, and I was like, whoa, I'm just bringing him a strap. So that was how it all got started for me. Was just, and it's really special to be able to do it with my son and to be there with him. But yeah, just they could not find a singer, could not find anybody that would be around and do the parts right. So they still keep me around for right now anyway.
Well, and look at the money that you're saving, right, Zach? I mean, you don't have to pay anybody now. Your dad's free. Right?
That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah, and I really want to thank you guys for allowing Six Gun, the three of us anyway, and Chad for letting us be a part, of this.
Well, what's crazy is, Chad Reed saw Zach on TikTok, and he goes, "Man, you guys got to hear this guy, right?" And that's why, Nick, you got to get yourself on TikTok.
Zach's told me 1,000 times.
He'll hook you up, man. He knows how to do that, right? And so Chad saw him, and then he sent me an email and Craig, and we were like, wow, this, and if Craig is impressed by somebody that's doing Gary's and Alan's parts, and if Craig's impressed by that, then then you got somebody that's a formidable expert. So
Zach does them all. That's what amazes me.
Yeah.
He does Steve and Ed and Alan and Gary. He's kind of like, it's like, and I can't tell them apart. I'm going, wow, he just does them. Just pretty much impeccably.
So we got him on the podcast, and then I was actually wanting to talk to his dad because, I knew he didn't just go out there and get all that stuff himself, because dad had to help him out. You must have got a part-time job or something, Chad. Because
all of the stuff that he has come over time. It was never, and just one piece at a time. You guys got to realize too, he's been around playing music since, he started playing drums when he was 10, but he was around like my brother and I have two uncles that were in a pretty busy band back in the 70s, and we were always getting together for family reunions and things like that. He started listening to 70s rock, when he was, just still really, really young. So no, all of the equipment that he has, it has been really one piece at a time,
Yeah. So
I told that to his wife too. I said, that was the first thing that impressed me. I said, man, somebody's backing this kid. He's got some really good stuff. And I told your wife, Chad, and she said, yeah, it all came, a little piece at a time. I said, well, that PA system didn't come a little piece at a time. That all came once. There's about 10 grand right there.
Yeah, well, actually, it did, Craig. We had bought the two tops, or the two mains. We bought them and a small little mixer at one time, and then it was like a year later we bought another piece, and just adding on to it over the course of the time.
That's a nice little PA. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah,
and then, of course, you had to acquire the guitars, and then, you got, of course, some really nice Marshall amps and things like that. And you got your own amp there, Nick? What you got, man? What kind of gear you got?
Yeah, I'm actually buying Zach's old Marshall off of him. The one I use for gigs. It used to be Zach's, but I'm about to pay it off now.
Is he giving you a good deal, man?
Yeah. Give me a great.
Yeah, I don't want to give any secrets away or anything, but they've been, all of the amps that are here have been hot rodded just a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got a little bit, on the road with Griff Martin, and at the end of this podcast, you guys want to stick around because we have an actual video and a guy who's working on. We call him Mr. X. And it's a Peavey Mace, is actually an amp that was owned by Lynyrd Skynyrd. And so we're going to go through it and talk about it. So you guys want to stick around for that, and it's a pretty informative stuff. So, hey, SATA, let me ask you something, man. How come you didn't just start getting involved in rap music? What brought you into this genre? How come, because your age, you should be like doing some rap music.
Like rap very much.
You don't like rap?
I grew up like listening to music with my mom and dad. I mean, they kind of influenced what I listen to today. Really influenced what I listen to today. I don't really like the new stuff that's coming out. I can't listen to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know what it is because I don't listen to it either. So, but the same thing with you, right, Zach?
Yep.
Your dad,
Yep.
your dad was like dancing out in the garage, working on the car, listening to Skynyrd, right?
Yep. Yep. Skynyrd, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses. It was all there. So, all the stuff coming out today, it don't tickle my fancy.
And he told me that he caught you listening to rap in your bedroom and he spanked you for it.
That's not true. That's not true.
Well, I mean, Craig and we get accused of a lot of stuff, so we might as well make things up.
There you go.
Well, unless you guys got anything else that you want to talk about, I just want to say we appreciate you guys coming on the podcast, and these guys are going to be working really hard at that concert. SATA, when you guys show up for practice, jump up there with these guys, man. Let them get you on the stage there with them, and you can sing a medley with Chad there or something, a duo, something like that. So you guys, we're looking forward to hearing everything that you got to say. I'm going to be watching you because I heard you got some really good pipes, man. I heard you're a great singer. So you guys, we appreciate you coming on. And Craig and we've got some other stuff to talk about. So if you guys want to go ahead and just log off, you can. We're glad we got you on here without any technical issues. And Chad, thanks for making your appearance. I know you don't like to get on the camera too much, and we thank you for coming in here. So appreciate you guys coming.
Well, thank you guys for having me. And one more thing, if you guys out in the Stone Roadie land, if you haven't seen anything from about a week ago with Slicks and Revolver, I had the chance to go down with ZACK and listen to them rehearse, and Slicks and Revolver will be headlining this event, and the guys sounding really good, really, really good, very energetic band. So for the people that's getting ready, that's bought tickets, if you haven't bought tickets, buy the tickets, because it's just, I mean, there's nowhere else right now to go out and see that kind of a show in one evening. I mean, really legendary players from around Jacksonville, and like I said, Slicks and Revolver topping the end of the night. So it's really going to be something to come out and see. Get the tickets.
All right, we're looking forward to it, and we'll see you guys day of the show. Thank you, SATA, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, SATA.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Well, Craig, we've got so many things that we want to talk about, man. We also have some updates on some things. And today's Alan Collins' birthday. Is that true, Craig?
Yeah. Happy birthday, Alan Collins. Yeah.
Yeah, it's his birthday. And then also this weekend, little Ronnie, that was Ronnie's nephew. I believe, his memorial is this weekend, when he passed away, his celebration of life. I'm not sure about specifics on that. So if you knew him, you might want to go check on seeing his memorial. Gene's the one that told me about it. Another thing too is Unknown Henson, Stuart Baker. I just found out the guy had a couple strokes, Craig.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah,
he was a good friend of Ed King's.
Yeah. And I've been trying to get him on the podcast, and now I kind of know why he probably wasn't able to do it. Poor guy's been suffering with a stroke, but he seems to be doing good. He is in therapy, but having a stroke for a guitar player, that's a horrible thing to have to deal with, having to relearn how to play your guitar and things like that. So we wish Stuart Baker, Unknown Henson. If you guys have never checked out Unknown Henson, man, you got to check that. That guy's great, man. He's just a heck of an entertainer. So we wish him luck, and and hopefully he gets through that good. Another thing too is Fortune Child. We want to mention Fortune Child. They just landed a gig with Joe Bonamassa.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, so they're going to be on tour, I think, with Joe Bonamassa. It's some kind of a cruise. You guys go check that out. I think that that's one of the Fortune Child is one of the up and coming bands that Joe Bonamassa has picked, like one of his top 10 bands of up and coming bands. So I'm sure Kevin Elson
Kevin Elson just produced them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we love Fortune Child. Buddy Crump, he was at Whitey's. And if you guys look at any of that Whitey's footage, old Buddy Crump up there, man, that guy is like, he's like Chad, they're both really good. They're different, but they're great guitar players, and they're young. And like Brandon Miller, same thing. Those guys are really great guys. Let me see what else we have here. And I had released some pictures on Facebook of the band Lynyrd Skynyrd back when they did. It was like 3 days before the plane crash at Altamont Springs. Were you at Altamont Springs when they did that signing, Craig?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some a roll of film, and I put it on my Facebook page. Tell you what I'll do is I'll put it up on at the end of this podcast, so you guys can take a look at it. It's like a black and white roll of film, and it's a really great roll of film of pictures that have never before been released, that I don't think too many people have seen. So that's cool. And Mr. X had something to do with that. So we appreciate that. Let's see what else we have here. That's about all I got for that. And other than that, you guys stick around, and we're going to have an On the Road with Griff Martin. I can't tell you where I went. It was in Florida. There's a place that I went, and Mr. X, this guy, he wants to remain anonymous. He's been around Lynyrd Skynyrd band members, post plane crash members. He knows everybody. He knew everybody with the exception of Ronnie Van Zant. That he hung around Leon and Alan and Billy and all those guys. Used to go to their house, and he's acquired quite a few things that those guys gave him over the years, and he was friends with them. So he's kind of somewhat of a Skynyrd expert, and he's going to be working with us from time to time. But at the end of this podcast, On the Road with Griff Martin, he's going to show us a Peavey Mace amp that he's looking at, and then we're also going to get to hear Steve Gaines learning his parts over at Leon Wilkinson's house, and I've talked to Joe Crimp about it, and he was there when this was going on. Joe was playing drums on a phone book. So really cool On the Road with Griff Martin with Mr. X. We're going to take a look at that. And so you guys stick around for that. Craig, what do you got over there on the wall, man, on the donations thing?
Yeah, we had 3 more donations here, and I talked about the one on Facebook. Yeah, Jesus for Survivors. Yeah, they didn't want me to say his name or anything. He just wanted to put it up, Jesus for Survivors. But he wrote me a really cool letter, and I'd like to maybe read it on one of the future podcasts. And he was talking about, Ronnie being a street person, and Jesus, was always referred to himself as a street person, and he used people, just regular people to do great things, and he kind of referred to us as just regular people doing great things, like street people doing great things. So it's was really cool. I'd like to touch on that letter at some time, but yeah, he was our ninth contributor to the donator to the Forgotten Survivors Fund, and then we had Carter Clemens. He donated. Well, Jesus for Survivors donated $1,110 last week. Sent me a check. And then the week before, Carter Clemens, I don't know, I think we mentioned him last week, sent 1,000. And then Angela, Lynyrd, we mentioned her before, she sent in 500. And then my buddy Automotive, he was our third donor. He gave us 300. And then Anonymous Mary gave us, she was our fifth donator, gave us 300. And then Tony Mays, he was our sixth donator, gave us 151. And Joseph Muller, he was our seventh donator, gave us $101. And my buddy Steve Etheridge from Murphy's Law Band here in Akron gave us a $100 donation. And Jerry Bertzi kind of started this off with me starting these donation things. Insisted that he wanted to donate, so he got me going on this post office box here thing to take these donations. And then here just a few days ago, our Robert and Sheila Lamb sent in a $50 donation. They were our 10th donator. And Antonio and Denise Soares sent us $100 here just a couple of days ago. And then Gary Owens, we're going to start talking about people that off of eBay Gary bought Gary's funeral brochure off of eBay, and we ended up profiting about $600 off of that after they took their fee. So with all these donations here, we've accumulated $4,412, and then we finally got paid from YouTube subscriptions. Last month was $455. So we've actually come up with $4,867 toward this Forgotten Survivors funds. And actually last week we sent out $3,500 last week to the survivors. We sent out 1,000 to Paul Welsh and 1,000 to Mark Franks and 1,000 to Gene Odom, and we sent out an additional 500 to Mark Howard. And Mark was really appreciative of getting it. Mark's going through a lot of stuff. I'd like to send him some. He seems to be the one that's going through the most trauma these days. He might have to have his leg amputated. He says he can't make it down to this Jacksonville thing. He said, but in October he's going to make it down there if they have to carry him down there. So yeah, I told him we sent him some more money, and he said, man, you wouldn't believe how that really came in handy. So yeah, that. Yeah, I just wanted to let people give a little update on what we're doing on these the survivor stuff. Yeah, we've sent out $4,000 so far. So but when you're dealing with hospital stuff and stuff, $4,000 isn't a lot of money. So we hope for this, for the Rockin' for a Reason, we hope to be able to give them each person a lot more money to all the anguish they've gone through all these years, and we hope to be able to support them from then on, from subscriptions from the Stone Roadie show, and the money we're hopefully make off these subscriptions. And we'd like to get these subscriptions up quite a bit. making a little bit of money off of these, but we don't want to turn this Stone Roadie show into a whole thing about donations and stuff. So I just wanted to touch on this a little bit because we've kind of gotten that direction, and just want to let people know that money's going for a good cause. So let's go ahead and roll with this with your on the road with Griff Martin thing. We've been jabbering and going on here, and I don't know how long you're on the road with Griff Martin thing, but we might want to on and do that.
Well, we wanted to do, we like to put some skin information out there along with, the other things that we talk about. We're hitting the donation thing pretty hard right now because we've got this event coming up. And just like Robert and Sheila Lamb over there in the board, I got a check in the mail, which came through the website, supportsurvivors.net. But you guys, if you want to, the best way to send donations is up there on above Craig's head. Craig Reed, P.O. Box 442, Green, Ohio 44232. That's where you send the donations. That one that I got from Robert and Sheila Lamb, there wasn't any instructions in there what to do with the money, so that went straight to the donations, and we appreciate that. If you guys wanted something else with it, let me know. Send me an email through that contact page on supportsurvivors.net. So I guess Craig, we can go ahead and roll the on the road with Griff.
Yeah,
Martin.
but I got a call yesterday from someone. I'm not going to mention their name yet. They just came down and said they came down with pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow.
And they're wanting to know if they've got quite a extensive Lynyrd Skynyrd memorabilia collection, and they don't want it to, when they go bye-bye, they don't want it just to, end up somewhere where people don't appreciate it. So the guy wants to start sending me a bunch of stuff and to sell on eBay for the forgotten survivors. All the benefits go toward the forgotten survivors. That's why I started this category here for eBay. We're going to start making that a category for whatever gets sold on eBay toward the forgotten survivors fund. We're going to start taking tally of that as well, and put that toward the total. And
well, what's cool about that, Craig, is once you get it in possession, now the Stone Roadie legitimacy factor, is going to make the value of that stuff go even probably double it.
Well, I know the guy that's got the stuff, and all the stuff he's got's legitimate. I know it is. And just the fact that kind of where it's coming from and why it's doing it. I hope it, brings a lot of money, a little extra maybe, than it would normally, just because of the cause and where it's going, So, yeah, I'm looking forward to some of this stuff. He told me some of the stuff that he had, and, it's older stuff. He's got a lot of older stuff that came from the fan club and stuff that doesn't exist anymore, So, yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah. One other thing too, a lot of great feedback on that last podcast on the Saturday night special. Everybody loved the guests.
With Barbara Carter. Yeah, that Kathy Godsey kind of dug her out of the woodwork. Good work, Kathy. Yeah, she spent did a lot of investigative reporting on that one. She spent some time on that, but it was really worthwhile. People enjoyed that.
Yeah, and Kathy's got a full-time job.
Thank you, Kathy Godsey, for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Great job. Everybody loved it. So shoot, man, Craig, I don't have anything else unless you do.
No, that's it. Yeah, that'd be our part of this for podcast 87, and I guess until next time on the Stone Roadie Show, happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you, and may the good Lord take a liking to you. Until the next time on the Stone Roadie Show, keep on rolling, or whatever that last line was. Keep toking until then. That's it.
Yeah.
Happy trails to you, and keep toking until then. Until the next time on the Stone Roadie Show. We're going to call that podcast 87. And here comes On the Road with Griff Martin. Cut.
Man, we'll see you guys next week.
After Wild Crocodile, after I see you later, alligator, at the Wild Crocodile.
Okay, we're on the road with Griff Martin, and I'm not going to be able to talk about my location. I'm not going to be able to talk about the person that I'm interviewing here today. We're going to call this Going Down the Lynyrd Skynyrd Rabbit Hole. And what I'm showing you here is a piece of equipment, and the gentleman that is going to explain about this piece of equipment, we're going to call him Mr. X. And we're going to be bringing Mr. X into the podcast from time to time, and we're going to call that Going Down the Rabbit Hole with Mr. X, because this guy, without divulging too much information, wants to remain nameless, and for personal reasons, but he has got so much information about Lynyrd Skynyrd because the guy was around all the band members. At one point in time, he's had something to do with everyone with the exception of Ronnie Van Zant. But that would be post-plane crash. So we're gonna introduce Mr. X without showing him, and we're gonna talk about what is this piece of equipment here, Mr. X?
Well, this is believed to be a Lynyrd Skynyrd backline amplifier that Hartley Peavey gave to the Lynyrd Skynyrd band under their endorsement Peavey contract. And this is a 1975 Mace that's believed to have been a backup Mace to the Tweed, gear that they used in 1976. The backline that was used at the Nebworth. Basically, this is believed to be a possible backup amp. And it's believed that Joe Osborne threw a bunch of stuff in the trash from Alan's studio during the early part of the tribute tour and getting ready for that over there on Jacobs Avenue. They brought a big green dumpster out front of that studio, and Joe and others just started throwing equipment into the dumpster. And people that lived around the studio were apparently pulling that gear out of that dumpster. And it's believed that this piece was pulled from that dumpster. There's a Tweed cabinet that goes with it, and that's kind of a signature that says it is what it is, because Peavey only made Tweed for Skynyrd and nobody else. So, it's kind of a signature.
Okay, so what are you doing with that?
This particular amp had been serviced, and it was not serviced very well. So I am removing all of the capacitors that the previous technician had put in, and I'm putting in higher grade capacitors. I'm going from low-end commercial to high-end commercial. I'm going to military grade capacitors as well as aerospace grade capacitors, which will improve the amplifier's operation, make it more efficient. Signal will flow better through it. It's going to get military grade ceramic, gold-plated tube sockets. Basically, everything is being overhauled in this amplifier that is time shelf rated. You know what I mean?
So for some of the gearheads that are out there that like to watch the podcast, and this is a part of the podcast that we don't get into a lot of, so this is kind of like a special edition for the techno pros and the gearheads. Let's take a look a little closer and maybe describe what we see in here there, Mr. X.
Well, the first thing that you do is you replace the electrolytic capacitors because, manufacturers give a shelf life of these are about 4 to 5 years. And, you know, people use these amplifiers for 40 or 50 years until these capacitors dry out, stop working, and the amp basically blows up. So we go in there and we pull all of these electrolytics out, all these filter capacitors. Every one of them has to be replaced. And I prefer to replace these with higher grades. So rather than doing, you know, 85-degree low-end commercial caps, I'll go with 105-degree high-end commercial caps when I can't get the military, you know, military grade. And these are metal film coupling capacitors. These are German-made metal foil. These are infinite lifespan, but they only have a 1 ohm resistance to the signal traveling between all of these circuits. So I've removed about 1,200 ohms of resistance between these daisy chain circuits simply by replacing all of these coupling caps. So the guitar player won't have to turn up each of the gain circuits as much to get what he needs out of it, because there's more. It's like unclogging the pipes, you know, it's basically what you're doing. And I'm trying to stabilize the output circuit.
Then you were talking about some of these fuse plug-ins that you had here for the tubes. Some of the tube plug-ins that you were telling me about.
Here's one right here, the gold-plated one.
Right.
These are very high-end, very, very good gold-plated that are going to be going in to replace
underneath that board right there is where the hole. So you're having to.
I'm having to machine the mounts for these sockets to make them fit this old Peavey. But once I get those in there, this thing's just about done.
And it was in pretty good shape for like over 30 years, and so you're going to bring it back into. And you're going to make it so it's going to be almost indestructible.
I hope so. At least, you know, I'm not going to say indestructible, but the parts that I'm using are superior to what Peavey used.
Right.
If Peavey could get 30 or 40 years out of the cheapest parts available, you know, these military and aerospace grade parts should, you know.
So now that that we're looking at the electronics of a piece of equipment that, let's say, Alan Collins would have plugged into that jack.
He plugged into number 4 mainly. Yeah.
So what is it that Alan loved about this Peavey Mace setup that set it aside from another amp? Could you tell us that?
Not really, because it didn't work that way. Because you see, Lynyrd Skynyrd being a commercial working band, these amplifiers weren't necessarily chosen for how they sound. They got a contract with Peavey because they needed a bunch of equipment that they could just grind through, you know, equipment that they could throw away.
Right.
I'm sure if Alan had his choices, he wouldn't have maybe chosen Mace or, you know. These amplifiers are merely endorsement contract amplifiers just to keep the band rolling on the road, you know.
So basically they kind of like, if you were a vendor, they gave you equipment and you saved money by using their equipment. And those guys at the time, you know, they were looking to cut corners, so
that's right.
It wasn't necessarily something that they appreciated as far as the sound, but it was economic and it was at their fingertips, and they had people giving them that kind of stuff.
What Alan told me was that they would get like a U-Haul truck, and then they would drive out to Meridian, Mississippi, back that thing up, they'd go inside and they'd do, I want this, I want that, I want this, and they'd start loading all that stuff up in the truck and bring it back to Jacksonville. You know,
cool.
Just get a wish list of this stuff.
All right. Okay, Mr. X. So the other thing that we're going to do here, and Mr. X has got so much stuff, and we're going to have him as a guest periodically on the podcast, which we really appreciate. He is going to queue up a audio recording on his computer of Leon Wilkeson at his home. And in the recording, they've brought Steve Gaines over to Leon's house, and they're trying to get him acclimated into the band's music. This is after they met him, and of course his sister Cassie told him about, you know, how great her brother played guitar. They didn't believe it, and so they heard him. I think it was at the Holiday Inn somewhere when they were on the road, and so
it was Kansas
yes,
City,
something like that. And so they took him over to Leon. They brought him down to Florida, took him over to Leon's house, and this is going to be the actual audio recording of Steve Gaines learning the songs at Leon's house for Lynyrd Skynyrd. Isn't that correct there, Mr. X?
That's it.
All right, so we're going to go there now. You guys stand by. Okay, we're in the computer room of Mr. X, and what we're going to do is, like we described earlier, this is when Steve Gaines came to Florida, and he went to Leon Wilkerson's house. And this is really close to me because Joe Crimp told me the story about how they brought Steve Gaines over to where he was roommates with Leon Wilkerson, and I'm thinking Joe Crimp was there for this. So, Mr. X, tell us what's going on this audio here.
Well, to give you a little bit of background on it, when the Skynyrd band went to Japan, they spent a bunch of money buying, cameras and electronics, and a lot of that was on the plane crash when it went down. But they were in Japan in '76 and '77. Leon bought himself a really nice portable Sony Walkman type of cassette recorder because he was really into music. He loved carrying it around with him everywhere he went. And also liked having the ability to record, if he needed to record, and he certainly did. And I met Leon and Billy in Vision in July of 1985, and I immediately became friends, close friends with Leon, and I went over to his house right after that first show, and within days, Leon lived not far from my house, maybe about 3 or 4 miles from my house at the time, and I drove over there one day, and he was living on Dolphin Street at the time in Orange Park, and he took me up to the loft above the kitchen right off the living room of that house, and up there's where he had his Yamaha Natural Sound stereo system. And one of the first tapes that he played for me, it blew my mind. I mean, my mind was already blown meeting my heroes in Lynyrd Skynyrd, and that they would actually let me, carry their equipment and work for them was just a real thrill, for a young man. But then when Leon, said, I want you to hear something, man, come upstairs, I want to play this tape for you. And I'm like, okay. So we went upstairs, and he put this tape in and hit play, and my jaw was on the floor. I'm listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd, a rehearsal of Lynyrd Skynyrd in crystal clear quality at Leon's house. And what Leon had told me was that, they did a rehearsal. I don't know if you can really call it a rehearsal because a band wasn't rehearsing. What was going on was Gary and Alan were sitting down in Leon's living room at whatever house he was living in at the time, and Steve and his sister Cassie were there. I don't know who else was there. I've often thought that ARTIMUS was there because I thought I heard some drumsticks clicking, but I'm just not sure. But I think it was mostly Leon, Gary, Alan, Steve, and Cassie, because you can hear Cassie's voice singing over them playing Simple Man. When I heard this tape that Leon was playing, for me, I asked him, I said, Leon, can I have a copy of that tape? And he said, sure. So I don't think my feet hit any of the steps on the way down and out his front door to my 69 Buick LeSabre sitting out in front of Leon's house. I drove my Batmobile back over to my house. And I'll tell you a quick story. Don't ever let a drummer with drumsticks in your car, because ARTIMUS chewed the dash up on that car of mine with his drumsticks, man. I mean, I'm driving him down the street. He's over there practicing on my dash with parts of my dash flying all over the car. But I drove that car to my house, grabbed my Kenwood flat top cassette deck and a cable, and I flew back over to Leon's house, and I ran back upstairs, and I hooked it up to his tape deck, and I made a straight deck-to-deck copy of that tape, okay? And what Leon said basically was he had put his Sony Walkman in the little table that was in front of the sofa that the guys are playing on and sitting on, and he was starting and stopping the recording as they were teaching Steve his parts for the upcoming One More from the Road live album. You can't call it a practice, you can't really call it a rehearsal. I would more or less call it an instructional tape.
Right.
This is teaching, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is Alan teaching Steve what he needed to know to be able to stand on stage at the Fox Theater with Lynyrd Skynyrd to play for that live album.
Yeah, because they had little time for him to rehearse to get ready for what they were wanting to do. And you said you mentioned that you heard some drums. Now, Joe Crimp told me.
I heard drumsticks. I thought I heard
Joe
drumsticks.
Crimp told me, and we'll have to check with Joe, that he was playing drums with on a phone book over when they were doing that. So this could be Joe Crimp with the drumsticks, and he could be drumming a phone book. So we'll check with Crimp on that. So anything else there, Mr. X, that we want to talk about before we listen to this audio?
I don't know. Let's hit the play button.
Okay. Well, so this is not going to be high quality sound like that you'd hear from exactly what he recorded, but it's going to be good enough for what we're doing here. And this is the actual audio recording that he took from there.
One thing I'd like to say about this recording, okay? Anybody who knew Leon, if you were ever in his house and you ever tried to watch a movie with him, Leon, you had to take the remote away from Leon, okay? I mean, Leon would drive you insane starting and stopping the movie. He'd be like, hey, did you catch that? Let's stop it and back it up and see it again. And he would do this over and over, and it would, you had to take the remote from Leon, okay? But what you're hearing in this recording is the same thing of Leon on the remote. He's doing the same thing on the Sony Walkman. He's continuously starting and stopping the recording rather than just sitting the tape recorder in the table and turning it on and letting it roll, which is what he should have done. So you're going to hear it start and stop, and that's Leon on the button.
And we could possibly pause it, and then you might have something you want to interject along the way here. Okay. So let's go ahead and roll it.
I think I know where it is.
Cassie's voice on this.
Yeah, he's saying Cassie's voice is on this. You might not hear it, but listen real close.
Stop it right there for a second.
Okay.
Tom Dowd told me that when Steve stood on stage with Lynyrd Skynyrd and he was recording them at the box, that he had not mastered these parts yet. And Tom Dowd said that he had to bury some of this that you're hearing him not quite catch here, had to bury it in the mix.
Oh, cool. Okay, so what we had there was almost like, I think it was like 12 minutes, and like we were talking about, that was Steve Gaines learning his parts after he joined the band Lynyrd Skynyrd. Anything else that you want to add to this there, Mr. X?
Griff, if that don't give you goosebumps, you ain't got any. But let me tell you something. This is the first recording that I saved and salvaged from a band member, but it's by no means the last. And I want Skynyrd fans to know that there's going to be quite a bit more to come. You know, all kinds of tapes coming from all kinds of directions. Okay, I mean, you know, Skynyrd had been around for a long time. They had a lot of friends, and there was a lot of tapes that went out. And now we're starting to see a lot of tapes come back. Okay. And one of them I'd like to tell the Skynyrd fans about today that I recovered from Alan Collins. You know, this one came from Leon, but I got one from Alan, the Bad Company tape. And I'd like the Skynyrd fans to learn about that one. Is that okay to talk about it for a minute?
Oh, sure.
Well, this is a surprise for the podcast, but, you know, I went over to Alan's house on the day he got in that car accident that paralyzed him. And I got a tape from him that day, and that tape turned out to be one of Bad Company's first ever recordings. And, you know, he wanted me to fix that tape basically so that we could all take a listen to it. It turned out to be Bad Company and Paul Rodgers. And I have my copy of that tape right here. As a matter of fact, here's the copy of the Bad Company tape. And here is the original Teaching an Okie to tape. This is the actual tape that I took over to Leon's house and my original notes and when I actually made that tape. But something I wanted to surprise the podcast with today is that something has just been discovered that confirms the authenticity of this Bad Company tape. So this is going to be a world first right here.
Where did this tape come from? Is that Paul Kossoff playing on it?
Yeah, no, that's Mick Ralph.
It's before the first album. It's got Moving On, Don't Bring Me Down, and Seagull, you know, from Bad Company's first album, and the rest of it is like Free, Old Free.
Yeah,
there's a song on there called I Found Me a Ride, Got Me a Ride, or something like that. It's absolutely awesome, man. It's incredible.
Oh, no. Hey, we were there when they did Shooting Star and helped produce it, and that was our song.
Shooting Star?
Right with Alan.
It fits Alan to a T, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I used to think...
All right. What you just heard is me and Gary Rossington having a conversation about this Bad Company tape. So he just confirmed the tape, all right? And what I have learned since is that this tape was recovered. Alan and Gary went into the studio with Bad Company while they were on tour in Europe. And apparently Bad Company was recording the song Shooting Star, which the lyrics happened to mimic Alan's life. I mean, it was like the script for Alan's life and song. And you just heard Gary Rossington say that him and Alan went into the studio and produced or co-produced that song with Bad Company, but Alan told me that they were never given credit for co-producing that song, okay? But Alan told me that that tape that, you know, he has a Bad Company, he got from Paul Rodgers inside that studio, which was a castle, is what he told me. It was in a castle. And that he brought that tape back to Jacksonville, Florida, where I got it on the very day that he got into that car accident with Deborah.
Wow.
Okay, and here is that tape, the Bad Company tape, and like I said, there's the original Teaching an Okie to Fly tape as well, you know. And these are just some of them, and there's going to be quite a few more to come.
Yeah, and just a little something to add to that, the day that Mr. X got that tape, he had a little story about kind of what happened the day that Alan got in the wreck, and we'll save that for another time. We got a lot of information that we need to uncover when we visit with Mr. X, and we're going to have him back periodically. So it's going to be amazing to uncover some of this stuff, and we appreciate this individual for coming through with these things for us. And you Skynyrd fans that can't appreciate this, you know, the whole Steve Gaines learning the parts, that's like unheard of. So that's a first here, you know, on the STONED Roadie podcast with Craig Reed You have anything else to add there, Mr. X?
No, just thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it. It's nice to get some of this back out there. I mean,
Yeah.
do you know I sat on that Bad Company tape for 37 years?
Well, it's like individuals like you, Steve Reynolds, that have these great stories and some of these artifacts that we get to see. And now we're listening to audio artifacts. So really amazing. I think a lot of people that are really deep Skynyrd fans are probably kind of cringing right now. We really appreciate Mr. X with this, and this has been the Stoned Roadie podcast, and we're calling it Down the Rabbit Hole with Mr. X, and we're gonna be visiting with him periodically. So it's been On the Road with Griff Martin. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep toking until then. Yeah, the Road Stoney Show.